imagine this. A huge crowd of people gathered, sitting down to eat, and you've got 5 hamburger buns and 2 carp. Okay? Because when they say barley loaves, they're not talking like, you know, big, you know, wrapped loaves like we would buy in the grocery store or something like that. That would maybe feed 20 or 30 people. We're talking about 5 barley loaves, which would be essentially a little boy's lunch. So think about it. Jesus tells them to sit. Have a seat, because we're going to have a meal. And his disciples have to be going, what? You're kidding me. How can we possibly feed all of these people with so little? We as God's people tend to think the same way that Jesus' disciples did. So often we look and see only how little we have, and we see ourselves existing in scarcity. We look around and we see a world that is filled with riches and filled with plenty, and we look and we see, what do we have? But we have scarcity. And so we're afraid. And so we don't think that what we have to bring to the table will make any difference at all. But somehow by this little boy bringing his lunch to the table, he's saying, you know, I know there's lots of people, and I know this isn't much, but here, this is all I have. But if you can use it, be my guest. It's similar to the widow who goes to the temple treasury, and all she has is 2 copper coins. It's not much. What in the world can they do with just 2 copper coins? But she puts it in the treasury anyway because she trusts. She trusts that God can do amazing things even with just a little. And so Jesus tells the people to sit down and tells his disciples to, okay, start breaking off little pieces of these small barley rolls and little pieces of fish and start handing them out. Now, there are many ways that this miracle could have been accomplished. Simply by, you know, we've all seen the magician who puts his hand in the hat and pulls out a rabbit when we thought the hat was empty. So it could be like that Jesus worked the miracle and made sure that every time they reached into the basket that there was always more food, that the basket never ran empty. And that's what Jesus did. He made sure that the basket never ran empty. One Jewish scholar says that the real miracle here is that with this whole group of Jews sitting around on the hillside, the real miracle was that they actually shared their food with their neighbor. He said in Jesus' day, they weren't very good at sharing. They were all pretty selfish, ready to only take care of themselves. He said that in some ways, the miracle could have happened that Jesus inspired them. Jesus opened their hearts and inspired them to be generous and actually share what they had. Boy, aren't we like that in our world today, too? You know, to get people to open their hearts up and be generous and share and help provide for others. We live in a world that is constantly saying, well, watch out for number one, Nobody's going to take care of me but me, so I'm going to make sure I have enough, and if there's any left over, well, good luck for you. But that's not what Jesus calls us to do, and that's not what this miracle is about. This miracle is about the fact that even though we may feel like we don't have enough, Jesus is always enough for us. When we trust and when we have faith in God, amazing things can happen. Amazing and wondrous things can happen. Like feeding 5,000 people with 2 hamburger buns, or 5 hamburger buns and 2 carp. I hope they were smoked carp. You know, somebody asked me the other day, were they raw or were they cooked? And I'm thinking, I really hope they were smoked. But when we trust in God, it changes our lives. And so the disciples, even though it was crazy, it was ludicrous to have 5,000 people sit down at a meal of 5 loaves and 2 fish. But when Jesus is the host of the meal, anything can happen. Anything can happen. Amen.